interview and introduce to you Mr. Chris Sullivan. And we'll talk about where that nickname came from, who many of you know from his work on television and film. He most recently was in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. The second season of This Is Us just began, thus increasing the stock of Kleenex by quite a bit. He's been on a ton of television, from The Americans and Law and Order SVU to The Nick, and of course This Is Us. He's done a number of independent films. If you haven't seen Imperium, watch it. It'll make you view the Harry Potter films in a new way. It's profoundly disturbing. He also has a profound history in theater, which we'll also be talking about. So I could keep talking, but I'd rather not. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Sullivan. So can we start with a little bit of your background? I know that you came to LMU from Jesuit High School in Sacramento, where you had started doing theater.
Yes.
So you didn't start here. We just made you better.
Yes.
Okay.
The year was the year of our Lord Jesus Christ, 1998. Do any of you remember the 1900s? Great. A couple of us. It was a different century.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I went to Jesuit High School in Sacramento, where I studied theater with a profound educator named Ed Trafton, who runs to this day a very overdeveloped high school theater program. I walk into their theater now, and I'm astonished. And then after graduating there and appreciating my Jesuit education very, very much, I visited here, and Lisa Piamenti convinced me to come here, and then I was here.
And what happened here?
Well, a lot happened here, mostly theater. And so I graduated in 2002 with a degree in theatrical arts.
What sort of productions did you do while here?
Freshman year I did Three Penny Opera.
Mm-hmm.
Sophomore year I did a play called, I should have brought I should have written this all down. I did quite a bit of work with Diane Benedict. She yeah.
Some fancy ring.
The Great White Witch. She influenced me at every turn. She educated me every year. I had classes with her and was in 2 productions of hers. My senior year, we did the Scottish play, and sophomore year was Portia Coughlin, which was an Irish tragedy. Which most Irish plays are, written by Marina Carr. And then my junior year, I did the main production that I did that year was with the Del Rey Players, and it was called The History of the Devil by Clive Barker. Fun play, you should check it out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, you graduated, and then what happened?
Oh, you're good.
See, I did my reading.
I graduated and nothing happened for about a year. My grandmother gave me $5,000 for graduation, and I said, great, now I can just go be an actor. I've got $5,000 in my pocket. Watch this. And that
was 1998 money.
And that was a lot of money back then, 1900s. So I moved into an apartment with 2 other LMU alumni in a not so nice part of town where we had a wonderfully low rent, and there was about 10 of us living on that block, actually, LMU alum, film school, theater majors, sound, music, audio mixing, and recording arts. My roommate was a recording engineer, and so we all just kind of commiserated with each other for a year following our graduation, trying to figure out how to be artists, and have someone pay us to do that. And so just that summer I graduated was my birthday. My parents gave me what, looking back, must have been like $500 worth of shipping supplies for my birthday. So envelopes, letterhead, postage, staples, like literally everything back then. I don't know if they still do. You had to staple your resume to your headshot. There was all these things.
It's all the internets now.
It's all on.
Yeah,
It's all on that
there's no
World Wide
stapling.
Web.
That you keep hearing about so
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
A stapler is a thing. Paper is this, and so regardless of what had happened the night before in our fellow commiseration, I committed myself to waking up every morning at 9 a.m. to send out 10 envelopes. At that time, I would say people sent out envelopes, but I didn't get any work that way, so maybe people didn't. I would send headshots and resumes to, this may all sound distressing. I've spoken with the people who work here now. You all are in a much better position today with the program than I was back then. It wasn't quite as developed as it is today. I'm sure we'll get to that. So I would send out 10 envelopes. I would get the breakdowns illegally. I would submit myself using my friend's production company name to make myself look official. I would submit myself to agents and managers, and then I would spend the afternoon driving around looking for cheap food and walking into agents' office and saying, "Hi, my name is Chris Sullivan. I have a theater degree. May I please have representation?" To no avail. But every day I did that, and it was a bit of a meditation, an exercise, and it got me through my days. All through that, is Backstage West still a newspaper? Or is that all on the webs
It's
as
on the
well?
web.
It's on the web. So Backstage West was a newspaper, and so I would go on auditions out of that as well. What I ended up getting, my very first professional job, I would say maybe 8 to 9 months after I graduated, was a production of The Fantastics at a little church in Westwood. And I paid $150 a week, and I just wanted someone to give me a check to act. So I just wanted to be paid to act, and so I had taken little student film jobs and all these things that didn't pay anything, but there were meals involved, so that was good. And come to find out after the production had wrapped, that every person on that production, the director, the costume designer, a couple of the actors, were all Hollywood bigwigs. They were all Hollywood executives. The director was one of the lead writers on The X-Files. One of the actors that I was on stage with, who played a mute, was a development executive at Paramount. Our costume designer was the vice president of the Costumers Guild. The band included like Tom Jones, the arranger for Tom Jones, and the percussionist for Harry Belafonte. Like, it was just this crazy group of people who just loved doing theater and got together once a year and put on a play at their church. That lady, Valerie Mayhew, is still like my LA mom, providing countless bits of advice and guidance. But that was kind of the first lesson to me that it didn't matter what. It just mattered that I was being creative, and that I was being creative with other people.
So let me get.
I mean, a lot more happened after I graduated. I could go on and on.
Do you want to?
No.
Okay. I'm going to get professorial for a second.
Okay.
What do you know now that you wish you knew then?
Oh, Jesus.
And there is a grade on this one.
I wish I understood how much faith that this all takes, and one of the greatest gifts that my parents ever gave me was something that they didn't give me, which was the idea in my head that this wasn't possible. At no point did they plant a seed in my brain that this is not exactly what I should be doing. So I may have at times in my life walked through certain things with confidence that I should not have had. In fact, I certainly did that. But there's a spiritual nature to I think there's a spiritual nature to all lives. But I believe firmly that there is no creative life without a higher power. And I certainly wish I had the emotional and mental maturity back then to know that.
That's good.
Next question.
You're alone. No, I'm just playing. Let's go back to This Is Your Life. Defending the Caveman was the next major development.
Yeah, so this is a weird step in any acting career because it will just never happen to any of you. So it's like I could tell you about this, but it's this weird, unique thing that happened that is like this. I got my equity card here in LA. That's weird enough. At least at that time it was. I don't know if it
Still is.
Still is. The equity card being the membership to the theatrical union as a performer through the Mark Taper Forum. Right while I was doing that job that had gotten me my equity card, I auditioned through Backstage West for a small non-union job. The blurb was like this long, defending the caveman, no idea what it was. Didn't know that non-union meant I couldn't work on it. Confidence. Put together an audition tape in the living room of my friend Chris McCaleb's apartment, who was a film major here, who is now an award-winning editor on, any number of shows, Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, anything on AMC. Of course, I didn't know how to make an audition tape, so we're in his living room. I'm running around. He's steady camming this audition. And come to find out that Defending the Caveman was and still is the longest running one-man show in Broadway history, written by this guy named Rob Becker, who was a stand-up comedian who right now there's a huge stand-up comedy boom. There was also one of those in the late 80s, 1980s. And at the end of the comedy boom, all of these clubs were dying, and so this artist said, I need to create my own work. And he wrote himself a one-man show with the help of his wife, and they came up with Defending the Caveman, which is one of the early bits of comedy about the differences between men and women, with the idea that men come from a hunter background and women come from a gatherer background, and comedy ensues. People laughed so hard. A highly profound show for me because and a weird one because you don't audition. It's hard to audition for essentially doing someone else's stand-up comedy routine. But they narrowed it down to myself and one other guy, not telling us that they were eventually just going to hire us both, and made us both go learn the show, which was an hour and 45 minutes. It was an 85-page monologue. They paid us each some money and gave us 2 months and said, come back, we'll meet you in Boston in 2 months and you can do it for us. And so I went over. Is that theater over behind
North Hall,
Doheny?
that's the Del Rey
Still
now.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that theater, I got a key from Jason Shepard.
Plausible deniability.
Yeah. And actually, I got to keep these things anonymous. I got a key from somebody who worked here, and every morning I would stop by the store, load up on Gatorade and food, and at the time, cigarettes. Don't smoke. You'll save so much money. So much money. That's the dumbest reason not to smoke. Anyways, I would walk in circles. I would get there around 10. I would walk in circles talking to myself until about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Then Chris McCaleb, who was also unemployed at the time, would come over and test me on my lines. And I broke the script down into 4-page sections and would memorize it 4 pages at a time, which proved useful at the time. But then when I got on stage, it was at every 20-page marker where the script would cut off for me. So at page 20, at page 40, 60, and 80, it was gone, which I eventually smoothed out. But so I memorized the thing, got to virtually driving myself crazy. Went to Boston, got the gig, and continued to do that for probably about 1,000 performances over the course of like 4 years, touring theaters around the country and outside the country, not too far, Bermuda, Canada, and achieved what my high school theater professor deemed my PhD in stage time, which was just hours and hours and hours and hours of being on a stage in front of people. That is the most important thing to my confidence when I shouldn't have had it. Like, not knowing that I shouldn't have had that confidence. Because no matter what's the thing that has helped me in several auditioning, performing on stage, the thing that has helped me is paying attention to, being conscious of, and controlling my heart rate. My heart rate now does not elevate when I walk from the wings to the stage, because of all of those years of just doing it and doing it. And if and when that show ended after 1,000 performances, I went and got on it. I went and signed up for improv classes and walked on a stage every day, as much as I could. And when that stopped, it was all right. Well, I guess I better learn how to play guitar so I can get on a stage in front of people and learn how to do that. My heart rate still jumps walking into a room for auditions, which it's harder, but auditioning has nothing to do with acting. It's not the same skill. They virtually have nothing to do with each other. Which is why training for those is training for auditioning is completely separate from training for acting. But I'm now rambling.
Well, can I ask you to expand on that a little?
Yeah.
What do you think is the key difference between acting and auditioning? Staying hydrated. The difference is in acting is about, narrow it down to one statement. Acting, Mark, is about, acting is about to narrow it down to a sentence, which is not something I like to practice, but acting is about presenting a choice. Mm-hmm. Auditioning is about showing people your process of making choices. Mm-hmm. There is no director that cares if you come in and nail it. Like, it's not about nailing it. There's no director that wants to see a fully formed character. Uninterested. It doesn't matter. Because here in this room, we don't know what the set is, we don't know what the other actor is, we don't know if the writing's the same, it doesn't matter. But they want to know that you're not a jerk.
2, they want to know that you have some semblance that you know what you're doing. But 3, they want to know if they can work with you. If you are going to make directing easy for them, not easy for them, but if you're going to be able to be directed, you know, most of the auditions that I've you know, jobs that I've gotten have involved me making choices that were not the right choices, and then the director directing me towards the right choice and being able to make that adjustment. And not immediately get, because it still happens, and it happens with the more comfortable and the more confidence I get. A director will direct you towards what they're looking for because they are on the outside looking in. And to not immediately go into shame or low self-esteem or lack of confidence because, oh, fuck, I did it wrong. Jeez, okay, I'm an idiot. That was wrong. It's not about right and wrong. It's about, that was a choice. Now let's see if you can make another choice. And so the audition room for me is about being prepared but flexible. And the way that I navigate them as far as my confidence goes, if I am 100% prepared, then every job I get has everything to do with me, and every job I do not get has nothing to do with me. That's how I maintain confidence. If I am fully prepared. I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough.
I want to talk past the sale on that one.
Can we talk about then the transition? You spent a third of a decade touring with live theater, and then transitioning into more film and television work. Can you talk about sort of that process and that experience?
Yeah, that was a trickle, a slow trickle. I lived in Chicago for 6 years, which if you want to do theater for the rest of your life and make a good living, move to Chicago. It's a wonderful city, and it is structured for the theatrical arts. It's an affordable city. It's a creative city. It's a progressive city. And I did a little bit of on-camera work there, a couple things here and there. Back then, when I was living there, it wasn't as developed an on-screen city as it is now. But it was theater that also took me to New York. And so once I was in New York and working in the theater, the theater leaves no time. The theater leaves no time for anything else. If you're doing 8 shows a week, working Tuesday through Sunday, you have to be very creative in trying to get a commercial or a TV spot or there were my very first TV spot. It was my second show. It was a Broadway show called Nice Work If You Can Get It, and I had only told my dresser that I had booked a TV gig, and I didn't know what time I was going to be released from this TV gig, so I would let him know if he should start preparing costumes for an understudy. So it got a little tricky, but it was these little trickles of like 3 lines on this show, 4 lines in this show, and each time going to set, paying attention, figuring out who does what, figuring out who's who, how this works, what that's called, what's that, so C-stand, okay, all of these things that I didn't really have knowledge on, so that by the time the Nick came around, which was just a perfect storm of everything, of a character that, I don't know if anyone saw the Nick. You might not have seen the Nick. You saw that. Thank you, sir, for watching. So when the Nick came around, the Nick was a show on Cinemax that Steven Soderbergh directed. And it was this 2 seasons, 20 episodes, my first time with a recurring character being handed a part that I get to travel with, that I get to take from episode 1 to the finale, and really decide what type of story I wanted to tell, what type of choices I wanted to make. And there was a lot of autonomy in that process, because Soderbergh hires people to do what they do. So you show up, you don't really have to think too much, because it's like, you know why you're here. You're here to do that thing, so do it, and do it well, and we'll all just keep moving. And he moves very, very fast. But all of those little pieces added up to confidence, you know, so that when I walked on set with one of the greatest directors of all time, I was able to keep my heart rate even, because I knew that that's a C stand, you know, that I wasn't surrounded by things that were foreign to me. Now, you don't have to be hired to learn these things. There's a whole building full of this stuff. If you're not, is everybody here an actor? You're not. What do you do? What do you study?
I'm a theater major, but I'm more of a writer.
Writer? What else? Raise your hand if you're an actor, if you want to be a performer. And raise your hand if not. Yeah, what do you guys do? Film, great. You guys see them? They're in film. Talk to them after we're done here. Because if all goes well, you will run into each other 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. There are LMU alumni on This Is Us. You know, there are, everywhere I go, there's an LMU alum. The NBC PR person, 10 years behind me. We go to a morning show, the producer on that show, 10 years ahead of me. So have them tell you what a C-stand is. What I was going to say is, like, there's a building full of all this equipment. And if you know what it is, then when you're in an environment filled with it, you can keep your heart rate down. So that type of preparation going from stage to film is all about, honestly, it's all about learning about other people's jobs. Because hopefully by the time you're on camera, you know your job. You know what you're there to do. It's actually, it's much 90% of the time, it's much simpler. It's broken down into 5-line sections, angles. All right, moving the camera, moving around to something else. It's manageable. You know, it's definitely not an hour and 45-minute monologue, and it's not a 3-hour Shakespearean drama. But then the art becomes, how do you inject all of those little pieces with 3 hours of Shakespeare? So yeah, the Nick was the big project that moved me from the stage to the screen.
Mm-hmm. And well, since you brought up series television, I wonder if you might not speak a little bit more about some of the challenges, both just as an actor and as a human being, in working on ongoing series television. I'm thinking now specifically of This Is Us. And can you assure us that Kate and Toby will get married and live happily ever after, please? I'm not asking too much, I don't think.
I think everything's going to work out. I'm just trying to get myself married to somebody higher on the call sheet. You know, just keep that longevity going. If I marry number 3 on the call sheet, I'll be around for some seasons.
You just learned something. That's important.
No, it's a different. The position that I am in is 100% luxury. I am so lucky and blessed to not only be working on a television show, but a television show that I feel has a great deal of integrity and heart and spirituality and vulnerability. But a show that is received well is another blessing. The difference is, I don't know what to do with stability. Like, the actor's brain is always like, all right, the rug's about to be pulled out. All right, where's the next job? All right, okay, yeah, this is good, but this is fine, but, and taking time and take any energy to stay with the thing that you are on, and to yes, be looking ahead, and yes, keeping the momentum moving, but to be present and to appreciate every creative step for what it is, and to not let the outside in perspective affect the inside out perspective. I don't talk about it a lot. I find it treacherous and sounding like a blowhard. It for some fans of it, for some people who watch it, it's amazing. This amazing thing that makes them feel something, and that they connect with, and that brings them closer to someone, maybe, or brings their entire family around a television. And for me, on the inside, it's 20 years of work. It's 20 years of theater. It's 1,000 performances of Defending the Caveman. It's all of these things. And so that need to, like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Needs to be kind of controlled a little bit, and allow for the moment to land, and to feel, and to actually be grateful, and to actually be thankful, and to put that gratitude into the work or the performance. But as far as a career goes, the business side of it, you do have to keep things moving, and you have to be looking ahead, and you have to be figuring out, okay, if I'm not doing this, am I writing music? Am I studying improv? Am I taking a class? I have to stay active, because oddly enough, in my first Broadway show was a play called Lombardi, and it was like an hour and a half a night, and an hour and a half a day is not enough creativity for me. And so after the show got running and we got solid in it, like, the creative part for me is rehearsing. The creative part for me is developing character, developing relationships. Once we get into performances, I would say once a show is locked, after a certain number of previews, then the show becomes a science experiment to me. It becomes music. It becomes playing a song. You go and you play that song every night, and there may be different intonations, but you don't get to change the song. People want to hear the song that you wrote. And so when it switches to science experiment, and in my head, the tempos and the music and the rhythms and the thing, this creative form that exists within parameters, that exists within blocking, that exists within your pool of light, that exists within all of these restrictions, I need something else. So I started writing music. I don't know how to write music, but I started writing music. And so every day I would write, I set, my wife and I, Rachel, we did The Artist's Way. If you don't know it, you should write it down and get it. It is a program that will keep you creatively active, will keep you creatively tied to other artists. We suggest you do it in a group. Create some community for yourself. It's hard to have community as an artist. So make it for yourself. Take care of each other. And through this program, you can do that. And so I had written my first song, and then I had set out a goal to write 30 songs in 30 days while we were doing this play, Lombardi. So every morning I'd wake up, cup of coffee, and I would start writing, and I would just write poetry, just anything that rhymed. And I didn't second guess it. I didn't have to be good. It just had to exist. And I think that goes for all art. Your job is to make art. Whether it is any good or not is none of your business. So I would write, and then I would take my ukulele to my dressing room a couple hours early, come up with some chords, record it, and post a demo online. The 30 songs became a record a year and a half down the line, but it was just an exercise in keeping the momentum going, in knowing that you can't sit around and wait for somebody else to let you be creative. It's not going to happen. And also, nobody. I don't want to make sweeping statements. People want to work with people who are already being creative. So you have to. It's like getting a running start at a hill. What was the question?
I forgot. I was just listening to your beautiful speaking voice.
This cold is working out great.
Well, let's get serious then. Taser face. What is the challenge, if you will, or the fun, or the whatever, of doing something where a lot of your performance comes in after your performance, so to speak, whether it's CGI, you're dealing with special effect makeup. I mean, there's a universe, pardon the pun, or a galaxy, if you will, between Toby and Taserface.
Yes.
That's very kind of you. Thank you. Between Toby and Taserface, in terms of, or is there? I'm making an assumption here. How would you approach a character like that?
The same. This is the best part about all forms of art. The way that I rehearsed the very first play that I ever rehearsed in high school is exactly the same way I rehearsed the last Broadway show I did. It is an empty room with tape on the floor and people looking each other in the eye and connecting. It's the same. One show just had a lot more money, and the stage was bigger, and the theater was bigger. So, as far as I can tell, with my limited knowledge of filmmaking, it's all the same. It's just different. It's just different budgets, and it's different. The process is the same. The same C-stand is on every set. This is great news that you can plug yourself into it. I made all kinds of choices showing up. I made all kinds of choices about what this space alien was going to be. And then they slapped this makeup on me, and I couldn't move my face, and I couldn't speak because of the teeth, and I couldn't see because of the contact lenses. Well, now what? Now it just becomes technicalities. It's like anytime in a monster movie where someone is talking like this, it's because it's the only way they can get words out. There are no accents. It's not like I came in with accent ideas and then put the teeth in. It was like, I guess I talk like this. Like a Muppet. I have to go like this to get any of this makeup to move this much. Ridiculous. And there's no precedent for that. There's no class for that. There's first of all, I got the makeup on fully for the first time in costume the day I was shooting. So it's me in my trailer staring in the mirror going, how does this shit move? Okay, if I want to do this, I have to, it was do or die. There's no training, there's no application of anything I learned in college. All I had was my heart rate and was the knowledge that I was walking into a place that I'd seen before. And everything else is, let's hope this works. And thankfully it did. But, yeah.
Cool. I'd like to take some questions from the audience, but before we do, we just have a 1-minute lightning round where dollar values are doubled.
Okay.
What role do you want to play before you die?
Stanley Kowalski.
Okay. Your co-star Mandy Moore just starred in 47 Meters Down, where she's menaced by giant sharks.
Yes.
What giant animals would menace you?
Giant spiders.
Giant spiders, interesting. What is the role you wish you could do? We just learned something about the dean. What is one role you wish you could do over now because you think you could do it better?
Yank in the Hairy Ape.
Interesting. And last but not least, what role has someone else played that you thought, that should have gone to me?
I
But
wanted
you
to,
didn't audition for it.
I didn't audition for it. I read the books when I was a kid. I wanted to be the gunslinger.
Yeah.
Early on, Jessie Noe was a student here, and she was like, "You should play the gunslinger someday." I'm like, "I want to play the gunslinger." And they went with, who was it?
Elba.
Idris. I've never
Yeah.
heard of him. I don't.
He hasn't done that much. He's
No.
a flash in the pan. I think this is his last role. Let's throw the doors open. I'm sure people have a lot of questions and things they'd like to ask. Yes?
Hi, this more so pertains to theater. When you're doing a show, say 1,000 times, how did you not get bored or stagnant?
I did.
You did. Like, cause I've just been rehearsing a show for a month and already I'm kind of getting freaked out that I'm not gonna do as
Yeah.
well as I was in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's like, what are like some tools?
It's mental agility. It's doing it over. It's going to the gym. It's doing it enough to keep your own attention. It's figuring out a way to navigate within the blocking and the lighting and the costumes that you've been given to make it new, to make it as if you're saying those things for the first time. With Defending the Caveman, and I've done several, like the 2 Broadway musicals I did like a year and like 14 months, so it was a long time. But if my heart rate does go up a little bit, it's because I'm really excited to be there. I've heard people say, for me, as far as tools go, I don't know, you have to find your own tools, but there are mental states. I've heard people say, and this has been true, imagine that you are performing for someone who is seeing a play for the first time. Or imagine you are performing for someone who is seeing a play for the last time. And I've had a person die in the lobby on the way out of a show. So, like, there it is. Hope he liked it. I hope I die in the lobby of a theater on the way out. I would take that. I would take that. A long time from now. A long time from now. So there are, that is why I say it is a science for me. There's musicality to it. There are rhythms. There are, that was a comedy. And so I had five different deliveries for each punchline. And based on how the previous 15 punchlines went, when this one came, I would pick this one. Okay, they didn't know like that. So that affects the way I pick the next one. And it became an experiment. And it sounds sterile, but I like it. I enjoy that, especially if I want to keep it interesting for myself. But there's always something new. If you're on stage with other people, there's always something different. And especially if you're paying attention. and I find myself when I'm getting bored or nervous or distracted, acting like this, trying to come up with all kinds of stuff to do instead of just looking the other person in the eye. Because I don't want them to see that I'm nervous and distracted and bored and all those things. But ironically enough, if you come back, it's the safest place to be. If you do that, it'll be new every time, I think.
Sure.
Well, looking where you're standing right now and the position you have, what's the next step for you as an artist? Where do you want to reach out now?
It's time to learn something new. It's another thing. As soon as I start to feel comfortable, it's time to do something that scares me. It's time to do something that I do not feel comfortable doing. So I've started shadowing directors on set. And hopefully next season they'll let me direct an episode of television. As long as I don't make that face when I say it. Directing, for me, producing. it's a weird place that I'm. I just have interviewed lawyers. Like this is a new weird thing, but a lawyer's job is to help me turn this from an acting career into a business, like into a thing. That they use the word multi-hyphenate. Actor, director, producer, all of those things. But it's a weird place to be. It's a scary place to be. Because forever I was a person who was doing something that I love. And now that still exists, but there is also a product involved. And I have to kind of reconcile with that too, as far as what I represent as an employee of NBC or as a character on a TV show that everyone watches, or whatever that means, and how I want to use that to do the things that I want to do, to be a director or make my own movies or we're writing songs for a new record. And what's that going to mean? Does that mean publishing songs? Does that mean giving songs to other songwriters, getting songs on other TV shows? So I've been talking. The way I learned what a C-stand is, I was like, all right, well, I need meetings with music supervisors. And so I went and sat with the 2 music supervisors at Fox for an hour. Asked them what they do. What do you do? How do you do that? How can I do that? How can I be a part of that?
What's your favorite This Is Us moment?
The day I was hired. My favorite This Is Us moment, the very first actor I ever saw on any stage was Timothy Busfield. Anyone? Okay. I know you know. Timothy Busfield was on a hit television show in the 1980s called 30-something. And he was also, after he was on a hit TV show on a network, said, great, I've got enough money to open my own theater now. So he's like, well, where can I do that affordably? All right, I'm taking my money to Sacramento. And he opened up the B Street Theater, where he was the artistic director for a while. And the thing that he realized he had to do if he wanted theater to survive was interest young people in theater. Get kids to have their parents take them to the theater. And so they would tour around to elementary schools and put on shows. And that was the first, I had figured it out with him on set because he came to direct This Is Us. And I figured it out the year that I saw my first play that I can remember. He was like, yeah, that was me. So getting a chance to work with him was incredible. But all throughout the day, watching him direct was like watching was like watching an artist paint, or like watching an actor give an amazing performance. There's so much to learn there. And all day long, he would direct, and he would, And wait, hold on a second. And he'd come up and he'd go, hey, you guys, don't forget to give me a Hollywood take. And we'd be like, what's a Hollywood take? And he goes, no moving, no blinking. I'm like, what is he? That had never occurred to me. Because I'm from the theater, I have to make choices. And he goes, every camera setup, do one take where you do not move and you do not blink. And it's just the words. Because then the directors, cinematographers, DPs, yeah, both? No, you? What is it?
Art direction.
Art direction, great. They have it. They have the material. They have someone else's art, their words. Just they have it. And then you can do whatever you want. He also came up to us and said, sparking the direction, the shadowing, he said, oh, by the way, if you guys leave this show without your Directors Guild card, you're fucking idiots. And so I guess I can just do that now. I guess I have to ask. I just asked the producers, can I shadow? Yeah. Wow, that was easy. But yeah, getting a chance. I know it's not on screen, but getting a chance to work with him is probably my favorite one so far.
When you were at LMU or working, did you do any work as a techie, as a editor, as anything?
Yeah. I stage managed, assistant stage managed. Worked in the shop with Jason. Hung lights. I assume they still make all of you do that?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good. So yes, yeah.
Was there ever a time that you doubted that you'd be able to like be an actor and like make a living from it?
Doubted that I'd be able to make a living from it? Yes. Thought that I would stop doing it? No. There's nothing else for that's where that spirituality comes into it. You know, if you pursue your passions, I believe this to be true. I think. Raise your hand if you think it's not true, because I would love to talk about it. If you pursue your passions, they will lead to your purpose. And you should obey your purpose above all things. And your purpose is not to be an actor. That's not a purpose. You could be a storyteller. You could be a connector. You could be a mirror. You know, there are a lot of grand things that you could play it into. But being an actor, that's one way. That's one way to do it. To tell a story or to encourage people the same way that NASA inspires people to explore outside of themselves and outside of this world. An actor or an artist encourages people to look inward and to ask themselves what they think, what they believe, what they feel. So this is us. It's not important that you cry. It's not important that you laugh. What's important is you asking yourself why. Why are you crying? Why are you laughing? What about this character do you connect with? What about this relationship do you connect with? And once you understand those feelings are information. What do those feelings mean? Do I need to call someone? Do I need to improve a relationship? Do I need to change something about my life? Do I need to go somewhere? Do I need to do something? And the heart, and to say that that's what an actor does is grandiose and oversimplified, because there's 1,000 things that go into making that show. So there was a day I was walking down the street. It was a rainy day in Chicago. The show had stopped. I was not working. I think I was bouncing in a bar, which I'm terrible at. So I don't know how to punch. And I was walking to my improv class, and I'm not joking you. You know those days when the sun comes through the clouds and like the rays of sunshine come down? You're like, oh, this is what they paint. This is the things that they paint. Well, it happened, and a ray of light hit me. Not joking. And I was like, oh God. Oh, it was just this moment of warmth, and I was, for no reason, overcome with a feeling of comfort. And I knew that if I was walking down rainy streets to improv theaters for however long, then that's just what this was going to be. And I called my mom. So figure out what your purpose is, because there's many, many ways to fulfill your purpose. Acting could be one of them, but there are many, many ways to do that.
I was gonna ask what your purpose is.
My purpose is to humbly return that which has been given to me. I did not write that. But there's a spiritual teacher who I've been reading a lot of recently, who's been helping me actually figure out what my purpose is.
Who?
His name's Richard Rohr, R-O-H-R. Yeah, he's a Franciscan monk.
From a creative perspective, which do you find more rewarding, working on camera or working on stage?
Working on a stage. Being able, I like second chances. And the opportunity to tell a complete story and to take an audience through that story over and over again is ultimately thrilling. And to try to learn from past audiences and to take my experience with them into a new audience, I find thrilling. It just feels complete. And when we fail, we get a chance. We get another chance the next day to come back and just start over with people who have no idea we failed last night.
Do you ever feel like the fact that editing and stuff influences the way that a piece appears in post-production?
Yeah.
Do you feel that takes away from your control as a creative artist in the process?
Yeah.
Is that part of like why the theater is so superior in your mind?
No, I think as I get better at performing on camera, I will enjoy it more. Probably, maybe. But there's no form of this that is about control. There's no form that you cannot be in control of it. Even in a one-man show, it's not just you, it's you and 2,500 people. You know, there is no control. But performing on camera, you are there to tell someone's story that they've written. You are there to help complete someone's vision that they've mapped out. And so it's not our medium. If it was our medium, it would be theater. Like the ability for an editor, I mean, the editing is music, editing is rhythm, editing is, you can change anything. And thank God. Because just when I think I've screwed it all up, here come the This Is Us editors, and you're like, wow, I am great. And I'm not. I have been made to look better than I am because of direction, and because of our director of photography, and because of our editors, and because of music. Oh God, if music could swell right now. You know, like there are other things there are other artists at work who are tapping into people's feelings. And I've met with the composer of the show and the way that he injects rhythms at just the right moment to get people's hearts. You can control those things. It's pop music. Pop music is not a bad thing. Pop music has just figured out exactly what it is, and it knows what its audience wants to feel, and it delivers every single time. That's hard to do, but yeah.
We have time for one last question.
How do you truly internalize your characters and stay present with that?
What was the word? Internalize?
Yeah, how do you really get into your character and take it off the page and stay present in your character while talking to another actor in a scene?
I've yet to figure out how to say this to people, but I don't memorize anything fully. Is one of the things that I do. Sounds like I'm slacking because I don't know how to say it, but I get everything about 80% memorized. And it's not that I have all the words. I have all the words and I have them in all the right order, but I'm not quite sure of them. And that keeps me focused. And that keeps me present. And that keeps me thinking. I want the audience to see me thinking. I don't want to rattle off these words. Like, this is supposed to be a television show in somebody's living room. Like, I want you to see me think. And that's okay. Like, I've realized during shooting the Nick, like, the only time that is mine is between action and cut. So I can take as much time as I want. Because they're not going to say cut. I learned this on Imperium. I saw this actor do this. He would start a line and he'd go, "Listen to me. You listen to me. He caught himself acting. He caught himself not being grounded. He caught himself not being in the moment. And so he just stopped, went back, and started over. Got grounded and started over in the middle of the take. Because he knew what he wanted to do and he didn't want to wait for cut and then 5 minutes between takes because that's his time. And I went off, I'm like, oh, this is my time. This is my time. And when I saw the movie, they left both of them in. Because something happened. A moment, like thinking happened. So I know that's a weird way to talk about like internalizing or getting grounded, but anything beyond that is for me is overthinking it, especially for this role. Like Toby is as close a role to myself as I've ever played. So trying to not get in the way of that. There's a movie, a Kevin Spacey movie called A Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. That's based on a real city, and they went to the city and auditioned all of the people in the city to play themselves. One person was cast because they couldn't play themselves. They couldn't stand in front of a camera and not be altered by it. So if that's acting, if you develop your character, you make your choices beforehand, then the only real work is when the camera starts running to not let that alter you.